Let's start in New York State Supreme, where they are now conducting voir dire of the jurors. This morning, Trump entered and sat there reading the questionnaire, page by page as they went through it with the prospective jurors. The New York Times writing up every second. He closed his eyes for 1 minute. Oh, unclear if he's asleep or if he just closed his eyes. Like, all right, it's jury selection. It's one of the most boring things for everyone who's not the lawyer or the one juror being questioned. And all this as the DA in the case, Alvin Bragg, has now officially moved to hold Donald Trump in contempt for speaking about Michael Cohen as a violation of the gag order, trying to say that he should be fined $3,000 and asking the court to threaten him that if he does it again, that the court can put him up in jail for up to 30 days. Can you imagine? So what do you think the likelihood of that is? And what effect do you think Trump going to jail for some odd days for speaking out about witnesses who are bashing him at every turn on cable will do to this political race?
Oh, well, let's start with the jury selection component for a minute, because I find this hilarious. All of us have had at some point been called for jury duty. And I think I speak for all of us when your first inclination is like, what can I do here to get out of this?
Right. But cannot be fair.
Right. So, they've given them the perfect out. And it's like, well, can you be fair to Donald Trump? They're like, no, not at all.
No.
It's like you're always tempted in the beginning of one of these things to be like, well, I'm an incredible racist. I couldn't possibly render, like, all right, so you're dismissed and off you go. And so you don't have anything to do. I wonder how much of it has something to do with that. But I think the larger point that you conveyed, Megyn, is true, in that he's going to have an awfully difficult time finding a jury of his peers that aren't dead set against him. I mean, you just look at the demographics and the voting behavior of the city he's being tried, and it's very, very troubling.
Yeah. I would also like to talk about how Megyn knows the term voir dire.
Yeah, that's smart.
Which is very smart. It's almost like she knows what she's talking about and all this legal stuff. So people listening, you should definitely listen to her more than us. But I mean, even just from a practical standpoint, the ideology of the electorate in Manhattan aside,
right,
which is obviously one thing, but how could you really have an impartial view of Donald Trump, a guy with 99.9% name ID who has ubiquitous media coverage?
Who's on the fence? Who's on the fence on that?
You're telling me you haven't formed some opinion? After all this? You kidding me? I'll be honest.
You're too dumb to be on the jury.
That is disqualifying. If you haven't formed a single opinion after all of the articles that have been written about Donald Trump in the last 6 years, I'm worried about your ability to tie your own shoes.
I don't want that person, my freedom in their hands, for sure.
Listen, here's a little sample of who they've had to go through so far in figuring it out. This is as of yesterday. This is not read today. Of the 96 possible jurors, quoting here from the New York Times, brought into the room for the first round, more than 50 raised their hands to say they couldn't be fair. They were immediately excused. Courtroom color on the potential jurors by New York Times. The first prospective juror, so these are people who I think have still made the dance. They haven't yet been eliminated. First one is a young woman of color with a business degree who reads the New York Times and watches CNN. Out, right? If you're Trump's lawyer. Bye. She seemed unbothered by the need to be fair and impartial. Oh, you don't say. The second prospective juror is a white creative director with glasses who lives in Midtown, also a Times reader. The third prospective juror, asked about her hobbies, said she likes to go to the club. She said it in a playful voice, prompting a big laugh from the reporters in the overflow room. Really? They're really desperate for material in there, I guess. And then the latest potential juror to be questioned reads the Times, the Journal, and is also the first person to say that they are a New York Post reader, and therefore will almost certainly be bounced by Trump's prosecutors, because that shows some willingness with the Journal and the Post to try to keep a fair mind, which is the last thing Alvin Bragg wants. But you go through the resume of the people who are getting called in there, and I mean, that is just perfect, right? Woman of color, business degree, who reads the Times and watches CNN. Good luck to you, Trump's defense counsel. This is the road you have to hoe.
I don't think she's going to have a totally open mind. And the other thing that you surfaced, the Cohen piece, which, whether to hold him in contempt or not, what is hard for me to actually process is this is so unique. You've got a presidential nominee, right? I mean, he's going to be the candidate the Republicans put up for president of the United States. If he is getting consistent incoming from somebody who's involved with the trial in any way, is he not supposed to defend himself in any form or fashion? It seems like just a straight up speech and debate.
Yeah.
That you would have difficulty putting a muzzle on a defendant. Now, granted, I get how you need to do that on your average criminal trial. This is not your average criminal trial by any stretch of the imagination. He has a obligation at some point to the millions of voters who have already voted for him to try to defend himself in a court of public opinion, does he not?
I mean, I think that, honestly, that speaks to the larger issue here where, yes, there used to be a set of rules of what is proper and what's allowed, and that, the justice system exists to go after criminals and make sure that we have a just society. But it's very clear the purpose of it now is to do everything it can to defend Joe Biden and his poor record. Like, they have to find a way to muzzle Trump because he can't be out there talking about how, wow, look how open the border is, look how terrible things have gotten under Joe Biden. And it's a series of these trials. Like, this is their only approach they know because they can't run on a record. The record is terrible. So the only thing they can use is these systems that they have in place where they ran on, I will prosecute Donald Trump as their platform when they're running for election. It's just completely politicized.
It is. And the other thing that came up yesterday is the judge making all kinds of different rulings as it pertains to different things that can be entered into the court record. And it seems extremely clear to me that the prosecution is trying to basically muddy up his character, right? I mean, they want to bring in people he's had affairs with to testify against him. There's components of it that they want into the record, and the judge is trying to sort through these things about what something's prejudicial or something's not, or whether it's relevant or whether it's not. But it's very clear in the first day what the game plan is here, right? And they want to throw as much mud on this guy as they possibly can in the context of a court of law, where in the context of the court of public opinion, nothing stuck to him.
And I think that you could say that it was clear well before the first day what their intentions were, because if you look at the track record of the major dark money left-wing funders, Smug was talking about how there is this network of prosecutors around the country who are going after conservatives. They're funded by George Soros and allies of his, who are spending money literally to elect these people to put Republicans and conservatives on their heels and make them feel like they can't be a productive member of our society. If you look at how much money George Soros gave Color of Change PAC, for example, he wrote $1 million check to a PAC that supported Alvin Bragg.
Yep.
And so Alvin Bragg's game plan here started well before this trial opened, and I think that's a big part of the defense's case, is that it's hyper political, and you know as well as anybody, Megyn, that you can't be guilty of having a point of view.
Well, you know what's ironic, you guys, is they're trying to screen these potential jurors out for bias, and following certain news sources and so on that might evidence that bias. Look at the DA.
Right.
Who ran is promising to get Trump. Look at the judge who's had negative Trump commentary in the past, as his own daughter has espoused, criticizing him on social media. Like, it's amazing that you can get bounced as a juror for that crap, but you can still try the case as the judge, and you can still prosecute the case as Alvin Bragg. Here's a little bit more color from what's happening inside the courtroom. This is many news outlets, including NBC and the Times, have like a running blog because there's no cameras and there's no audio. It's very frustrating. But here's just a couple. Okay. 11 potential jurors remain for questioning after reading the survey responses. So they're trying to go through those 11 to find actual jurors instead of just potential jurors. One juror dismissed after saying he follows an anti-Trump group on social media. I'm sure that's the hashtag resistance, I would imagine. First potential juror says he followed Trump on X and read some of his books. Oh, that's going to be a problem. Art of the Deal and How to Get Rich. The response drew a smile and a nod from Trump. It drew a smile and a nod from Trump.
That's so good. I love that.
They gotta let cameras in this. Please let cameras in this.
He's one step away from giving the thumbs up that he does. One juror says her Facebook page contains Occupy Democrats content. She's a goner. There's no way, a hyper left-wing group. TikTok is a common source of news. 9 of the 23 potential jurors who have answered the questionnaire so far have identified TikTok as a source of news. That's sad. Let's see. Juror dismissed after struggling with ability to be fair. She said, I believe no one's above the law, so I guess that's a strong opinion. Asked by the judge whether she could be impartial, she said, I'm not 100% sure that I could be fair. She was excused. Good. Everyone knows Donald Trump. The prosecutor, this is not Bragg, but his co-counsel, Joshua Steinglass, addresses the elephant in the room. No one's suggesting you can't be fair because you've heard from Donald Trump. We need jurors who can set aside strong feelings and focus on evidence. It's not a referendum on the Trump presidency. We don't care. This case is about whether this man broke the law. And then, let's see, one more. The prosecutor, this is interesting because it's a preview potentially of the opening statements that we'll get. The prosecutor fronts for the jury, potential jury, that several of the witnesses you're going to hear from in this case, quote, have some baggage. You think? He says, let's see. Several of these witnesses have what you might consider to be some baggage. Yeah, like the
awesome baggage.
Ex-con Michael Cohen, the porn. By the way, I have been keeping my eye on MSNBC, and I was watching Maddow last night. I like to see what she says because she's probably the most lunatic of the lunatic fringe over there. And she has elevated Stormy Daniels from porn actress to porn director and actor.
Oh. That's important. Maybe she gets a production credit too. That's all. Is that better?
What she really wanted to do is direct. Is
it better to be a director than an actor? It feels like even worse, doesn't it?
No. I think you join the Directors Guild at that point, right?
Is there a lot of directing that happens, do you think?
Do we want to know the answer to that? Do we want to know?
You guys tell me. You look like the kind of guys who get the $19 movie rentals.
Oh my God! What a shot across the bow!
How dare you?
Unbelievable!
Outrageous.
Oh, she's starting off hot on us, guys, fellas. We got to respond. Listen, Megyn, this could get ugly.
Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. Leo was on a road trip and came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo rescued the dog and named him Delta. Sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help. And this inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, horses too, from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, a home. April marks 45 years since Leo rescued Delta. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions to keep going. If you would like caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner because there are tax benefits here too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with your advisor. We call dog a man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. deltarescue.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.